I told you we're not doing another book review, so no book review here today. Not at least until I finish reading Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker by Rey Skywalker, which just came out the other day. This YouTube channel will be book review free for the foreseeable future. No, today we're going to do a video I was inspired to do a while ago, actually. Unless you're living under a Star Wars YouTube rock, you've definitely watched these guys. Alex and Molly Damon from Star Wars Explained are the absolute pinnacle, gold standard of Star Wars YouTube content. It doesn't get much better than what they put out. But a while ago, Alex put out his top 10 favorite new Disney canon characters to kind of mark the end of Phase 1, or what he calls Phase 1 of the new Star Wars Disney media, movies and books and comics and such. I thought that was a really cool idea because if I tried to sit here and tell you my top 10 favorite characters of all time, we might be here for a while and my brain might explode in the process, which, in all fairness, would make really good content, but I don't know if YouTube's algorithm would really go for that. He didn't put a lot of guidelines as to how he made his list. He just said that he was including characters from just Disney canon. So characters from the Clone Wars, Ahsoka, Cad Bane, a lot of the Jedi Masters that got a lot of screen time in that series, not included because they were made before Disney bought Star Wars. He also didn't include Grand Admiral Thrawn, who technically was also created before Disney bought Star Wars, but there's a good chance he'll show up on my list. Here's what I'll tell you about my list. I had a really hard time ranking a top 10. I could kind of come up with 15 to 17 characters I really like, some from the books, some from Rebels, some from the movies, but putting them in an order was very hard. I'll tell you this, I love characters with a lot of mystery. I love characters that we don't know everything about. I like thinking about them in different ways. What have they done? Where have they been? How did they get to this point? I like that about a character. I also like characters that grow a lot. I love characters that start out really confused, but then by the end they have a very narrow mindset and are set in one direction. I love that about a character. I love seeing their thought process, or imagining their thought process, I should say, from beginning to end. So, without further ado, here are the Talking with My Hans top 10 new Disney canon characters. I shouldn't say of all time, because they're not of all time. It's just the first couple of years. So, here's the Talking with My Hans top 10 new Disney canon characters.
Okay, here we go. Number 10, Shriv Suurgav from Battlefront and Resistance Reborn. I'm not sure how someone can simply dislike Shriv. This guy's an absolute riot. He's so pessimistic, he's so sarcastic, and an absolute bundle of joy every time he appears in a story. His mission with Lando on Sullust in Battlefront 2 is probably the hardest to play simply because you spend most of the time laughing instead of shooting. But when a heavy hand is needed and there seems to be a moment of levity, Shriv does have a soft side, and it makes me smile every time. At number 9, IG-11. Say what you will, but droids have personalities too, so I'm counting them on this list. From scene number 1, he's already an instant favorite. When we first meet IG-11, he's cold and ruthless, with his only objective being to find and kill his target. When we re-meet IG-11, he still only has a singular purpose, but it's to protect and serve his original target, Khalil. I won't spoil his fate for those of you that haven't finished The Mandalorian yet, but I will say it's what earned him a spot on my list. Number 8, Sabine Wren. What a magnificent character. Without Sabine, who knows where Phoenix Squadron, and the Rebellion for that matter, would be. Over the course of Rebels, you begin to slowly unravel the mystery behind Sabine and why she doesn't talk about her Mandalorian family. Over time, you begin to realize that she's way more than just someone who's a skilled warrior. What really solidified her on this list is where I think Sabine will take us in the next chapter of Star Wars Rebels. Whether a book or a show, I hope we get to see her and Ahsoka go on more adventures together. Coming in at number 7, Cal Kestis from Jedi Fallen Order. This is another character I hope to see more of in the future. Like most of you, I thoroughly enjoyed playing through Jedi Fallen Order, and I hope to get through it again at some point. Cal really captured my attention in the game, and it's not just because he's the character you spend all your time with. He's essentially a wreck at the beginning of the game, scarred beyond a doubt from Order 66. But finding Seer, Grease, and Marin, and finding a purpose helps him come to terms with his fate as a Jedi. I already have my $60 ready for the sequel. Alright, number 6, closing in on the top 5. Rey Skywalker. Yeah, unfortunately, Rey didn't quite make my top 5. She's always been an intriguing protagonist, and I still think she was the right choice to center the new trilogy around. She, like Cal, finds a purpose and a family in the people she meets in her journey. She is the perfect embodiment of all the main themes that Disney has presented so far. Found family, and some things are stronger than blood, and making the right choices. She'll have more time in the spotlight soon, and I'm sure after I finish the Rise of Skywalker novel that maybe she'll even move up on this list. Okie dokie, the top 5 now. At number 5, Cassian Andor, Disney's latest TV show target. Then they really picked a good one with this guy. And he's got a sneaky good mustache. I'm not sure why I see so much hate for Rogue One on the internet, but even if it was just this guy for 2 hours, I would have been satisfied. Cassian is something we really haven't seen before, a true, gritty rebel soldier. Someone who isn't a force-wielding Jedi, or the best pilot Issa Jabim, or a technical mastermind. He's just Cassian. He's devoted his entire life to the rebellion, and from how it looks in Rogue One, it hasn't been that glorious. Of course, in the end, this nobody, air quotes, ends up being a crucial part of how the rebellion survives. But how we got to that point in his life is what draws me in. I cannot wait for his show. Number 4, Din Djarin, the Mandolorian. I don't know of any piece of Star Wars media that has been so universally loved from the get-go like The Mandalorian. Maybe the original Star Wars, maybe Empire Strikes Back. A huge part of it was thanks to him, but what really made the show special was the mystery man in the mask. Besides the split-second snapshots we have of his childhood during the Clone Wars, we know nothing of the Mandalorian. We didn't even know his real name or see his face until the final episodes. But despite all that, the audience connects with him through his compassion towards the child. These two are the power duo of the decade, and I haven't gotten enough of him or them yet. I'm ready to see the Mandalorian embrace his role in his clan of 2 and have an amazing second season. Number 3, Grand Admiral Thrawn. I told you he'd show up on this list. Again, he's technically a product of Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire, but he was recanonized by Disney, and we don't split hairs on this channel, so he made the list. Thrawn is by far the most unique character on this list. Everything we know about him is mysterious and murky. Thanks to the Thrawn books, we don't even know whether his true loyalties lie with the Empire or elsewhere. He's so much unlike most Imperial officers that it makes him the best Imperial officer. His quiet and methodical approach is chilling and threatening when he interacts with the main heroes of Star Wars Rebels and others in the books. My favorite pieces of his are when Timothy Zahn goes in his mind and we witness his thought process at work in real time. It's amazing that even as the audience, we still feel like Thrawn is 3 steps ahead of the rest of us. He was the perfect character to bring back from Legends because he was so different than the rest. He brought a breath of fresh air to Rebels and increased the stakes in that show twofold. I'm so grateful that we'll be returning to Thrawn's mind this year when Timothy Zahn releases the new beginning of his new Thrawn trilogy. On to the top 2 now. My second favorite character in the new canon is Ben Solo. Honestly, the top 2 characters in this list are interchangeable, and if you ask me tomorrow, I might rank Ben number 1. But for today, he's here. Ben was hands down the most captivating figure of the new trilogy. From the moment he makes his first appearance on screen, he commands attention and makes you ask all sorts of questions. We see him struggle for the better part of 3 films with himself and his purpose. And it made for unskippable scenes time after time in the sequel trilogy. What can't I say about Ben that doesn't make him a top 2 character? His rocky relationship with his parents, his constant need to prove himself, his unique connection with Rey, his obsession with his draw to the dark side but also letting the past die, his ultimate sacrifice and turn to the light. I mean, honestly, any one of those things makes him a top 10 character, but the fact that he wrestles with all of them at once makes him one of, if not, the best. Before I reveal my favorite new canon character, I gotta give a quick shout out to some of the honorable mentions that didn't quite make the top 10. Poe Dameron, Iden Versio, Del Meeko, Era Syndulla, Yrica Quell, Will Lark, and Riel Avaros all almost made this list. I feel particularly bad about Poe, Hera, Iden, and Del, but really it comes down to who really catches your eye on screen. It's a gut feeling making these lists, and they didn't quite make the gut check. But who knows? Like I said, if I come back in a year, I bet this list will be completely flipped around. Okay, the grand finale. My number 1 favorite character in the new canon is Kanan Jarrus. As I said, him or Ben could easily fill this number 1 spot, and I don't see anything taking them from these spots. Kanan is not only one of my favorite characters of the new canon, but maybe of all time. He, like I said in my last video, is one of the closest definitions of a true Jedi. Throughout all of his adversities, he never loses sight of what matters, Ezra and his friends. The odds are stacked against him from beginning to end. He starts his journey as a Padawan left with little to nothing after Order 66, and despite Inquisitors, Darth Vader, and the Empire itself, he still becomes the Jedi he was meant to be. The irony in Kanan is that he feels like he can't teach Ezra enough because his own teachings were limited. However, despite that, he teaches almost everyone something important over the course of the show. He never uses powers to attack, only to defend his friends and the young rebellion. Knowledge and defense. A true Jedi. We won't be getting any more of Kanan, at least not soon. But his ending in Rebels was hands down one of the most emotional moments in any Star Wars story and left me speechless when it happened. And it still does. And there it is, my top 10. As I said, this wasn't easy at all, but I'd love to do more of these because they're so tough. Also, I'd love to know your top 10 characters of the new canon in the comments. Alright, until next time, I'll see everybody later.
All I dream is